It broke up my relationship with the surfer, attorney, and cook when I kept asking to stay at his place in downtown LA. My neediness, the anxiety from the unfamiliar, and the deep sadness was too much for him. He couldn't hold such a big pool of tears. Most men cannot in this day and age. I knew that I wanted to tell personal stories. I knew I wanted it to be videos mostly, but I had no idea what I was doing. And the people around me were also in the same boat. They were mostly volunteers, college students from community college, and people who knew people. I thought that the first person who came into my life with a solution was divine design, so I just trusted it. Most of the time I was wrong. Most of the time, people are fickle. Needless to say, I wasted a lot of money and time on people who could talk, then walk. For the next 2 years, I was paying other people for what I ended up doing to pick up their slack after realizing that they weren't the right fit for the job. In all fairness, it wasn't their fault. I'd pay the cost of avoiding the responsibility of doing what was my responsibility to learn and do. WordPress, designing the concept, writing copy, video editing, filming, all of it. It took me 2 years to finally realize how true the statement of hire slow, fire fast was. I was most of the time naive, and according to the game of startup, that's the cost I have to pay for being naive. It also spoke to the insistence I had with having it be done my way. My stubbornness to have as much creative control as possible soon turned other creatives away. I got a bad rep among the contributors. She's shifty, she's scatterbrained, she's uncommunicative, most of which are true. But then again, those verbal weapons can also be used to mask the lack of commitment others had with this project. I had trouble sharing the platform, sharing the name brand, just sharing with people. Truth is, I just didn't like people because I didn't like myself and the way I was around people. I still saw the need to please. That behavior, the pleasing people behavior, that is so ingrained in my upbringing. I still couldn't stand for my own ideas, articulate it in a way that didn't come off passive-aggressive. Because I was secretly confident, and I felt guilty that I was this sure about it. Walking this road was like walking on rocks barefoot by the ocean. There's so much beauty that surrounds you, but somehow you're only focused on how much it hurt your feet. Dating became a sport. Because I still had a thick wall up, I attracted only prospects that I can have short-term friendship with benefits with. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was deliberate. The men varied in color, size, and personality. But dating multiple men simultaneously felt like piecing together pieces of the ideal man from different parts to make your dystopic Frankenstein. With shallow relationships, I only have to deal with the nice side of them. I don't have to stay long enough to hold their pain either. I could barely hold mine.
Oh, coconut. You're not going to do scratch behind the ear? This is called Fuck You, It's Magic. It's coconut. It's coconut water, Madagascar, vanilla, Himalayan salt.
You can look at it either of those ways. You remember now, when Horus goes to rescue Osiris, he has to go back into the underworld and haul his father out of the depths, and his father's down there sort of half blind and 3/4 dead. And so the transcendent things, which is often represented by the eye, it's also often, you see this in Christian symbolism a fair bit. So on top of cathedrals, in the dome, often what you'll see is tiers of people or tiers of angels, and then at the top you'll either see God the Father or Christ. And the idea there is that what that represents, so let's say the logos, which is roughly equivalent to Horus. I mean, by the way, I think I probably told you this, but Horus and Christ share many, many features in common. And the notion is that as the mythology of Christianity developed, it encapsulated a tremendous amount of the symbolism and story that was already present in the Egyptian myths and incorporated into the new religion. So it's not that surprising that they share parallels, but it's very useful to know what the parallels mean. There's a pyramid of power, there's a hierarchy, but there's something that stands outside the hierarchy that fixes the hierarchy and reshapes it and gives rise to it. Well, that's exactly it. It fixes it and shapes it and gives rise to it. And that's something that you might think about as roughly equivalent to the autonomous individual, because at that point you're no longer a marionette. It's also Piaget's highest stage of moral development, by the way, because when children hit that stage, if they do, and not all do, instead of conceiving of morality as following the rules, you conceive of morality as following the rules when that's appropriate, but adjusting the rules when that's necessary. And so you start to view yourself not only as a follower of the tradition, let's say, and not only as something that's obedient, but also as something that has a say in what the game is going to be going forward. And so we're going to surmise that what Geppetto is trying to produce, since he isn't producing a marionette, is something that has a certain amount of autonomy, and thus the right to interact as an autonomous being with his own cultural context.
For since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Christ shall all be made alive. But every man in his own order. Christ, the first fruits, afterward, they that are Christ's at his coming. Then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to God, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power. For he must reign till he hath put all enemies under his feet. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death.
I wrote a song for the movie, and it's kind of the theme song for the Joker and Harley Quinn. It's their love song called Gangsta.
It is by going down into the abyss that we recover the treasures of life. Where you stumble, there lies your treasure. The very cave you are afraid to enter turns out to be the source of what you're looking for. The damned thing in the cave that was so dreaded has become the center. You find the jewel, and it draws you off. In loving the spiritual, you cannot despise the earthly. The purpose of the journey is compassion. When you have come past the pairs of opposites, you have reached compassion. The goal is to bring the jewel back to the world, to join the two things together.
No matter what shit is going on in your life, all you have to do is look outside, and it puts you in a good mood. It makes you present. happening because I spent most of my life just being really ambitious about my career. And I was always living in the future. But being in a place like this just forces you to be in the present. And it's the most beautiful feeling in the world. So, the song about it.
So we're going to surmise that what Geppetto is trying to produce, since he isn't producing a marionette, is something that has a certain amount of autonomy, and thus the right to interact as an autonomous being with his own cultural context. So now he knows that's unlikely, and it's also a transcendent wish. It's sort of outside the dominance hierarchy, because one of the things you could say is, oh, do you want your child to become an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor or, heaven forbid, a psychologist? And in some sense, all of that is irrelevant in relationship to this more transcendent goal, because you can get to the place of transcendence pretty much through any disciplinary pathway. There has to be a disciplinary pathway, but which one doesn't matter. What matters is how you conduct yourself while you're on the disciplinary pathway.
For once in your life.